We're doing a crash course here on Zend Studio for Eclipse. My name is Peter MacIntyre. I've been using Zend Studio for quite a few years now, and I was actually on the original beta for the product and used Zend Studio's regular, non-Eclipse version before the Eclipse version came out. I'm not an in and out expert on it, I don't think. There's so much to this product, but especially since it's based on Eclipse, that alone is a big platform. So we have there's two versions of Zend Studio. The other one is called PDT, which is an open source version, free version. But what we're looking at is the professional edition, the one you pay for. And we're going to look at some of the basics of it first, and then get into just a few good examples of what it can do. Just type into the questionnaire, if you would, the coding environment that you're using now. I was told that some people have never used Zend Studio for Eclipse, so I just want to know what you're using now. Some people use NetBeans, some people use Komodo. Just curious what you people are using. Okay, while we're waiting for you people to respond to that, just give you an overview of what this IDE, Integrated Development Environment, contains. First, we have this is it's a little hard to explain unless you can see it in the bigger picture, but this is Eclipse Zend Studio for Eclipse, PHP's environment. Now, if you see up here, I don't know, hopefully you can see my mouse cursor, but in the top right above the tabs called Outline and Task List, you see a little, I'll change the size of it just so you can see it. There's a little tab interface up there. What that lets you do is change perspectives. Now, perspective is just a collection of views, and every one of these tabs, here we have PHP Explorer, on the left side we have type hierarchy, on the right we have outline and tasks, down below we have problems, tasks, and console, and of course the code editor in the middle here. So these are all views, and a collection of views is known as a perspective. Inside the Eclipse is project-based, and by that you can see here under the PHP Explorer tab there's a bunch of different projects I have going on here. I can expand and collapse them, and I can work on many different projects at the same time. These projects are all stored in what's known as a workspace. So you can have multiple projects in multiple workspaces. Under the File menu, you can switch workspaces. So if you have a project in its own workspace, you can switch to other locations for it and go look for it. I always locally put my workspace in my htdocs folder just so I can directly serve on localhost what I'm working on. So those are called workspaces, projects within workspaces, views, and perspectives. So please, as we're going along, just type in any questions that you have, and I'll try and answer them. Of course, this is the environment of Zend Studio version 9, which just came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago as a major upgrade. But what I'm showing you should also be very similar for version 8, the previous version. So what I'm showing you today, there's not much structural difference. If you open up other programs, code files, you'll just see them as a tabbed interface at the top here, and you can close them just as easily. This is the, before I get into the code environment, I just want to let you know that under Window, there's a Preferences menu item. Here you can, I guess it wasn't showing you my screen. There you go. So I'll just go back to the other areas where I was talking about different projects. Over here, they can expand and collapse. I guess there's a bit of a lag between what you see and what I'm doing, so I'll leave I won't be as fast as I have been going. And under File is Switch Workspace, and there is where I was talking about my workspaces, projects being in this workspace under htdocs. So again, under Window, Preferences, there's a major section where you'll spend some time, I would think, especially when you get started, setting up your own environment. You can see there's different sections here. PHP is the main section here for your development environment in PHP. You can talk about its appearance, its code coverage. We'll get into all of these a little bit later, and well, not all of them, but some of them. Here's your debug settings, editor settings. And you can expand that. Just let the screen get caught up. Your code folding options, and so on. So again, that's under Window and Preferences, and you're going to be spending some time in there, at least at the very first. Under the General list, you'll see some general options for editors, text editors, spelling options, things like that. There's a lot of things that are set. You can see here by the spelling is turned off, mostly because it's a code editor. So, but you can turn it on and off. But by default, it's a lot of things are turned off. So if you want things to happen here on startup, shut down, things when your environment starts up and shuts down, all kinds of different options. So again, we'll be just spending a little time in here later on, just showing you where things are. We'll be jumping back and forth. So back here to the code editor. This is just a demo debug PHP file that comes with Zend Studio. They give you this little small file to play with, and it has a few things to show you that it's what can be done within it. So the code editor itself is very powerful. First of all, there's a feature called code folding, and if you see here on line number 4, it might be a little hard, but there's a little faint negative sign in a symbol and a circle. If you click on that, it'll fold your code out of the way. So if you know that there's anything in that section that you don't want to deal with for your own screen space, you can get it out of the way. Here's a better example. In PHP code, if you know this function row colors is fine and it's taking up screen space, you can fold it out of the way and save some screen space that way if you're working on a different function. If you hover over that line of code and click on the, you should be able to see it. Oh, there. If you hover over the plus symbol and don't click on it, it'll open up a little hover pop-up box with the actual code inside it, if you want to just visually reference it. So, that's code folding. As you can see, the reserved words are, in my case, purple. Strings are in yellow, and so on. Internal functions, like array and so on, are purple as well. Variables, in my case, are black. I can change them. I think they used to be green by default, or red, but I had those turned off in my situation. You can also see it's interpreting some HTML as best it can, so it's showing you the tag options here, the border, background color, and so on. What else? Okay, well, so we're seeing the line numbers in this here section just to the left of the line numbers. You will see it's called the marker bar, and you'll see any kind of warnings and errors going on represented here. So in this sample file, they throw in a undefined variable just to show that the text editor, code editor, will pick it up in relation to PHP. In the marker bar, you'll see if you hover over it, you'll see a little yellow caution symbol, and if you hover over that, you will see that it is an undefined variable. That's the warning. So warnings are in yellow. You'll see them on the Problems tab down below. The Problems tab, however, is showing 100 items, and it's keeping track of every project, all the projects I have open in my workspace. So you can jump between projects if you want to look at different problems. You can see them all here listed, and it gives you the path that they are found in. So here's our example projects. And you can collapse those warnings and error messages as well. So I'm going to force an error in here, and I'm just going to put a space into the echo command, and you can see the warning turns to a red X, red circle, white X, showing that it is in fact a bigger problem. If I save the file with the error, my problems view is updated, and it gives me the line number and so on of where the problem occurs. Now, if I close that file and collapse all my projects, you'll see there's a red X on this project as well, on the project name in the top left. So that's indicating that somewhere in that project there is a problem. So in the Problems tab, I'll just bring this up a little bit higher. If you double-click on the problem line itself, it will open up the file and take you to the line of code where the problem is. So that's pretty neat. So we'll fix that. The error will go away once you save the file, and we're still stuck with the warning of the variable not being defined. Now that's not a showstopper. That won't cause your program to fail. It's just an editor warning showing you that you might be referencing a variable that you're not aware of in total, or perhaps you mistyped its name. Are there any questions so far? Again, if you have some, just type them in, and I'll notice them on the right-hand side on my little questions window. So I want to go back to perspectives. As I said, you're looking at the code, basic PHP perspective as shown up above here. There's a lot of things you can do with perspectives. So I'm just going to switch to another perspective here. If I click on the plus symbol, a little pop-up window will show up. I'll click on Other, and you can see a whole list of the potential perspectives that are predefined in Zend Studio. So if I go to, perhaps I'm working on a remote system. So I'll click on the Remote System Explorer. I'll open that up, and you can see a whole different layout of the screen with remote. Here's some of my remote locations that I've worked on through FTP and so on. So it let's see if I still have this open up. No, it's asking for a password. Okay, so some of them you can store the passwords. I don't have these stored. Let's try one more. No. So I guess I was smart and I didn't save my passwords. But again, that is if you click on these properties, you'll see the host settings and so on for your FTP connection. So you can directly work on remote systems through FTP or SFTP and other remote ways. And that's just one perspective. So again, I showed you one way to get to perspectives is clicking on the Other list. Another way is under the Window menu. You can say, look at open perspectives here as well. So there's a couple ways to get to different perspectives. Okay, there's a question here. How do you create a project from current system files? All right, so if you have a project that's already on your system, you can go File, New, Project from CVS, from Git, from GitHub, SVN, or local PHP project. So there's different ways to bring them up. So if you have a local PHP project, the one just below there from an existing directory, you just click on that. This interface is a little bit new for PHP, or for Zend Studio 9, but you should be able to interpret this. You just name the project, New Project, and you go and find it, browse to it. So I think all my projects are already predefined. So if I go on Next, it asks you about URL settings and any supporting libraries that you want to add to it. If I click on Finish, it will bring in, I didn't select any specific project location here. So if I go into a project location, htdocs, and I expand that. Well, here's one, career services. It's not on my list. We'll see if that brings that in. It overlaps. So I might already have it here, and it's noted to it. So it'll know that where it is and if it's already in your workspace. So that's how you create a new project. You can either go File, New, and bring down that list. And you can see there's all kinds of things you can create that are new. Or if you're in the PHP Explorer view, if you right mouse on it, New will come up as well. So there's a couple different ways to bring it in. Here's brand new project. Here's, you can see all different kinds of new projects. Here's XML files, HTML files. If you just want a general PHP file, it doesn't have to be a new project. You can be in a project, right mouse on new, and just create a new PHP file, which is right here. So if you want to create new files, you can do it that way, or import projects as well. So I was talking about perspectives and how to switch between perspectives. I am now back into PHP stock perspective. Remote systems is the one I was in, and once you select a perspective, it adds to your perspective bar in the top left of your environment. So if I don't want remote systems anymore, I'll just right mouse on it and say close. It goes back to the last perspective that you had and removes it from the list. But it doesn't delete it altogether. So you can still go into remote system and get it again at any time. So perspectives, like I said before, are just a collection of views. And views can be rearranged and or closed. So if I'm in this PHP perspective and I don't like how it's offered to me in a stock way, here's another question. Is it possible to create two different project names with the same workspace? Yes. Two different project names. These are all different projects in my PHP Explorer. Some of them are closed right now. I have a blogs project. I have a cert practice project. These are all within the same workspace. Multiple projects. So yes, you can. Perspective. So again, I'm in my PHP perspective. If I don't like some of these views, I can rearrange them or close them all together. If I don't want this task list, and I can close that. And if I want more editing space, I can just drag this outline view down to the bottom. It's become part of that bottom area, and now I have more area for my code. Now this project perspective is changed from its default. So what I can do is I can save as my own perspective. So now that I've customized a PHP perspective, I can change PHP custom if I like. Now I've saved that perspective. I can switch to any other perspective I want and go back to my PHP custom perspective. My original PHP perspective still exists, and it can come back up with outline and task list as before. But my PHP custom is my own perspective, and it's the way I set it up the way I want to. Question, do these projects in the PHP Explorer point to the same directory? Well, the directory that these all reside in are under the same workspace in my case. So as I showed you before, here's a workspace, and it's my htdocs environment, localhost. So all these projects I'm currently working on are inside that workspace. Now they can be in different locations. You can find the locations of the projects just by right mousing on them and clicking properties at the bottom, and you can look at project resources here, the first one, and it will tell you its location. So each of these projects in the same workspace are under different subfolders, but they're all under htdocs in my case. Now they can be in different folders and brought. They could be just under C projects if you want to, and it can be brought into the same workspace. I just have them in htdocs so that it can be served locally in a browser without me having to move things around. Okay, so I said before that we're going to do a little bit more in, if you notice when I collapse my project, but then I click on my file, the project expands again. What that's doing is this little two-way arrow here in the toolbar of the PHP Explorer that links with the editor. I can turn that on and off. So if I close that and I go back to my code editor, it doesn't link back into the Project Explorer, PHP Explorer. If the code is linked, then it helps me locate that file name and what project I'm in. So if I'm working in multiple projects, here's my class code. I have each class code open up. If I flip back to Demo Debug, you'll see the highlight shows switches to the open file in the open project. One more thing I was going to talk to you about code folding is, remember I showed you could collapse code out of the way for visual appearance. That can be, and I also talked about preferences, that can also be controlled in preferences under the PHP section under editor and code folding. So you can enable code folding, you can control it to initially fold these elements. So if you don't want to see any PHP docs commenting, or if you want to automatically close your fold your functions when you open a file, you can do that. So if I'm going to say OK, and I'll close this file, and I'll open it again, it should have my functions automatically folded, and they are automatically folded. So you can control it that way if you like. I'm going to turn those back off and say OK. So that's perspectives, custom perspectives, some code folding, showing you a little bit about where, how to control it within the Windows preferences. Another neat thing is called code formatting. And as you can see, this code is indented. The if statements are tabbed in and over, and so on. Now if I wrote my code with everything jammed to the left, like so, syntactically that still works. That's correct as far as PHP is concerned. But if I want to format it properly, so I mean indent it and so on, I can highlight the code, right mouse on it, go under source and click format. And what that will do is it will rearrange the code to proper indentations and so on. So you can see it redid it for me. Now it left one of the curly braces on the left hand side, and that's because it's of the way it is set up. So if I go under code style under PHP in my preferences and I look at my formatter, you can see different ways to control how the code is formatted. You can set your indents how you like. You can make it so that the you can make it so that the curly braces are on their own line, and so on. There's built-in conventions, and you can have new ones, your own profile as well. So if you want to set up your own code format, some really strange way that works for you, then you can go ahead and do that. Another neat thing in the editor is called bookmarks. I'll just save this file. Bookmarks aren't shown up in the, I'm just going to close this and go back to the default view, default perspective rather. So the bookmark is its own view. It's not open by default. So you have to open window, the way to get different views. Not only in a perspective, how do I say this? Not only in a default perspective are you limited to the views that it offers. You can add your own views if you want, and again customize that perspective that way. So if I want the bookmark view and it's not on the default list, I can go and look for it, and under General there it is, bookmark. So I can say OK. It'll open up on the bottom. Now what a bookmark is, it's a way to mark your code as a place, maybe the last place you were working. So if I was down here and I wanted to bookmark this code, this line of code, maybe I'm doing something here on this print line, I can just highlight it, or I can go out to the marker bar here and I can say add a bookmark. I can name my bookmark, or the bookmark will be a default with the code that's working on it. So I'm going to say working on print. Rahul, if I'm answering, saying your name properly, I see your question. I'll just finish my point here and I'll get back to you. So here's my bookmark, working on print. I save it. A little blue tab shows up in the marker bar. Might be hard to see, but it shows up in the bookmarks view. Now I can close this. I can close my files. I can be in a different area. I can go back to my bookmark, double click on it. It'll take me right to the code where I was working before. So if you're coming back over the weekend, you might want to just bookmark the line of code you're working on when you left, and find an easier way to come back to it. So, Rahul, you had a question. In the indentation, we see a gap. A gap of where? This is the function I was working on. I'll just go Control-Z to get it back to, it's not going to go back because I saved the file. I'm not sure what gap you're referring to. Are you referring to this closing curly brace here? Right. So I'm not sure. Let's see what happens if I format again. So it seems to be ignoring that last one. I'll just jam everything back over to the left again and see if it picks it up better. And I'll even put this curly brace down on its own line. That may have something to do with it. So if I format it, actually even if it's all on its own, let's do everything on its own line. So again, I've jammed everything on 2 lines of code. I'm going to save this. Syntactically, it's fine as far as PHP is concerned. That will run. But if I format this, source format, there it indents it properly this time. So maybe I just missed highlighting it, or the way I had it set up didn't work. So that fixes that. So we talked about bookmarks. Okay, so in relation to, it's kind of like bookmarks, it's another thing called tasks. And what you can do is you can assign yourself things to do. So if you're still working on this function and you want to put in your own note, you just, I'll show you how this is controlled in a second. You can just go 2 double slashes and a to do and a space and maybe something, a note to yourself, finish this function. You save the file. Notice in the Task tab, Console Task in the bottom, a new to-do item shows up. The line of code is marked, so you know where it is, and you know it's a PHP type of task. Also in the marker bar, you see a little clipboard with a check mark on it to note that it is a to-do item. So again, if you want to go back to something a week later, you know it's not a pressing matter, but it's something you want to go back to tidy up some code or something, you can give yourself a to-do. You can control that. See if I can find that. That's under Windows, Preferences. Task tags, there we are. So under PHP Editor Task Tags, you can see this to-do is a default, and that's what it picked up right away. Now these other ones I've done before. One's called Fix Me, and you can add priorities to them as well. So if I put in another one here called Fix Me, I can add a new one, anything I want, and add its priority. So you can set up your own task tags. But I've done one that is a high priority called Fix Me, F-I-X-M-E. So on the next line, / F-I-X-M-E, space, this code is broken. And I go Control S. Now a new Fix Me is showing up in the task below, and it has an exclamation mark because I've predefined the Fix Me as a high level of need to be fixed, priority high. Raul, yes, I have been recording this whole session ever since I started, so I'll save it and I'll send it to either Pranab or Vineet as in the Dropbox, and they'll know how to get it to you. So again, same thing, to do and Fix Me. Again, you can see the different priorities. If I close the file, reduce the project, even if I don't have it open, I can double click on the Fix Me. It opens up the line of code and takes me right. It's similar to a bookmark in that sense that it takes you right back to it, but it also is a task reminding you of what's going on. Yes, now the outline view is very handy. I'll bring this, well, I'll just move that out of my way. So the outline view is certainly, it's kind of just using this sample code. It's not showing you a whole lot, but what it's doing is it shows you the functions within that code file and the variables that are defined. So here's a DB variable, row colors function, display workers. Every time you click on them, it'll take you to that definition. So it's a quick way to jump around. It reduces your code to function levels and so on. Now I'm going to open up a class file here. It has lots of methods, and you can see the outline view has updated itself with all the different methods in this class. And you can see it's a class because it has a C, circle C in it. So here's the properties of the class I outlined for you. If you want to jump, and as you can see there's a lot of code here in this file. If you want, instead of running trying to find the method you're after, if you know the name, you just click on it, it'll take you to that section of the file. So if you have big code libraries, make sure you use the outline view. Now you can collapse them all together if you have multiple classes or things like that as well, but it certainly helps you jump around within larger code files. You can sort the items in here as well. You can see anchor is not alphabetical, obviously. So if it helps you to see them in a alphabetical listing, there's a little button here. If you can see it, A to Z. And what that does is it arranges, it doesn't change your code, obviously, but it arranges the listing of the methods, in this case, alphabetically. So if you know you want to find something that starts with the letter N, you can jump in that way. So that's our crash course day 1 of Zend Studio for Eclipse. Again, like I said, I'm saving this session and get it to you through Dropbox, through Vineet later on. Are there any last questions here before we go on the overview? Next week we're going to look at team development and debugging and then some other features on the last day. So we're going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week as well. No last minute questions? Okay, we'll see you on Monday at the same time. Bye for now.